If you said goodbye to me tonight, ooh, there would still be music left to write. Ah, what else could I do? I'm so inspired by you. That hasn't happened for the longest time. Whoa, hey, it's the hardest part of the ring. What's going on, you crazy cats? What do you say? What do you know? Tip the veal. Try the waitress. Some weather we're having. It hasn't happened for the longest time. It's been a year and a half since we had an episode of NXT that felt like NXT did before it went on USA under the WWE. That's a lot of letters. But we enjoy New Year's Evil. We're talking about the Hulu edition of New Year's Evil, the first 2021 episode of NXT. And all in all, it was pretty good. Again, this is the Hulu version, so I know there's stuff I missed. Clearly, there were entrances I missed because the last standing women didn't get one. I'm sure there were matches, and they didn't do the fight pit match altogether, I don't think. So, yeah, there was a lot of stuff that just didn't happen. But this also meant no 88 backstage skits, no Garganos anywhere on this. We took a break from the Garganos and then the Way and the whole thing, and they were in 14 backstage skits and a match each throughout the whole episode. We just gave them a break, and we needed it. And it was a great, great episode. The show opens, the first Hulu edition of WWE NXT on USA, but on Hulu. Opens with Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. Then we have Dexter Lumis, and thankfully, at least in the Hulu edition, he didn't do jack shit and dump all over this thing like they did Sloppy Blackheart in the Halloween thing. She wasn't on this. But Dexter Lumis, actually, yeah, they did a weird thing where it was really long and plodding and quiet, and he just walked around pressing buttons, and he was really pushing my buttons because this was going nowhere fast. But at least it might have been quiet, but at least it was slow, so that makes good television. And then he flips a switch, and clearly there's an edit because now he's wearing a different outfit, and it's like he slid down the bat pole and hit the lever, and now he's Burt Ward with his dick hanging out. Oh boy, oh boy. So it wasn't too big a deal. So Damian Priest wrestles Karrion Kross first. Damian Priest enters first, so that when Karrion Kross enters, Priest has to run away so Kross and Scarlett can do their entrance. Why not just have the heels enter first and then they can walk away so Priest can do his entrance but still do theirs beforehand and everyone gets to do their thing. Traditionally in wrestling, the rule is when it mattered, heels enter first. If there's no titles involved, a champion would always enter second regardless, to make it feel championship-like. But traditionally in old indie wrestling or whatever, heel enters first to get the heat. So this way, especially like, I don't want to say outlaw mud show, but old indie wrestling, and the idea is, well, if the fans know none of these people, none of these wrestlers, the bad guy comes out first, and it's always the same cheap indie heat. You get in. Of course, the dude will always brag about getting heat. When you went into every person's individual personal space and told them they suck and sit down and be quiet, and that their local sports team is not good at the sport they play. So yeah, congratulations, because you took 5 minutes to get to the ring and had to go to all 12 people in the audience and do that. Regardless, this way, the babyface doesn't get totally shit on, because no matter who comes out next, they want to see him kick the ass of the first guy who came out and was a jerk. That's the principle behind that. Instead, they start with Priest. Usually I'd say, well, yeah, open the show with Priest, hook viewers. This guy's big, he looks like a star, he's good looking, really handsome, just an attractive guy all around. Just so many good features. Leather pants. Okay, yeah. And, but Karrion Kross is also a badass looking dude, and he's got like the hottest woman in the world with him, so you could have just opened, I don't know, I'm nitpicking here, but these things are important. They add up. Because why did Priest... Priest has been a tough guy and not putting up with Cross's theatrics and shit this entire time. And then finally he gets out of the ring because they have a smoke machine. Like, I don't understand why they would do that. Either way, I like this match, and I'm big on Damian and Priest, but listen, people, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. It was a hard-hitting slugfest. What I liked about what this did for Priest, and I'm assuming this is to elevate Cross to go against Finn for the championship. Yes, Finn keeps the thing. Sorry, I didn't warn you for spoilers, but by the time this airs, it'll be 2 days apart, and wrestling fans, you know the deal. So what this did for Priest was he finally fights from underneath. He's been having to sell for Gargano's goofy kicks and everything else, and even smaller guys like not just Gargano but Cameron Grimes, etc. And he's been in this Leon Ruff thing, and this time he's finally fighting someone who's as big as they're both very tall guys. I don't know who's taller. Priest is probably taller, but Cross probably has more mass. He has to fight from underneath and sell for a bigger guy who's dropping him left and right and bumping him all over the place. And for Priest, that is great because we have to see him take an ass kicking. He'll be more. I know he lost. He'll be more over in the long run if we see him overcome ass kickings than just come out and look cool. If he comes out and look cool, it's gonna sizzle. Look what happened to Velveteen Dream. Even before his scandal thing, he had a great 6 or 8 months where he was the coolest thing, and we didn't see him bounce back from adversity. We need to see him get his ass kicked and come out through it, not just have a good match, not have a 5-star match. Cares, idiots, don't know anything. No, he needs to fight from an ass kicking, and even if he gets pinned, he needs to fight up from the ass kicking. So when Priest said, "Give me all you got," and he got all he got, I think they had a spot. I don't know if they planned it or not, where Cross was going for that wacky kind of drop you on your high up on your shoulder suplex, Saito something. He dropped him on a Saito of his head. But yeah, there was like a struggle there. He couldn't quite get him. I don't know if that was intentional or not. And I'm sure every internet mark claims he knows. Nobody knows, all right, unless you're one of the guys. But I like how it looked, which it should look like that. It should look like it was a struggle. Cross shouldn't look like he's having an easy time defeating Damian Priest, but more that Damian Priest has a hard time against carrying Cross. Didn't hurt Priest. He needed that. We need to know that he's not just because what's going to happen is going to be the same thing. What was I talking about this with? About Keith Lee. You don't want Keith to suffer what Roman and Cena did. Same thing with Priest. You don't want, because it happens quickly. It's almost overnight. Fans will turn. So I was all for it. Did Scarlett disappear during this match? She just all theatrics. She lip syncs the entrance. She does the whole thing. She's wearing next to nothing. And then she isn't on the hard cam. She's off to the side. So that was a little bizarre. Oh, there was this great kick out. You don't see great kickouts anymore. Damian Priest, it was one of those 2 7/8 kickouts that he did. I don't remember what move it was from Cross, but it was the drop you on a Saito of your head suplex. Anyway, eventually Cross does that move, the maneuver I just mentioned, and a clubbing forearm to the back of his head kind of a thing. Cross gets the Duke, stick a fork in him, he's done. This match gets 1 million stars. That's how many match it gets. It gets 1 million stars. Take that, you fucking Meltzer-worshipping idiots. We have a break in the Hulu show, and we come right back to Rhea and Raquel. Again, no entrance on the Hulu thing. That's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. But I'm just saying, I'm assuming it was on the regular broadcast. And it makes sense the Fight Pit match wasn't there because we have 3 big matches, and this is just a good hour, just good wrestling. A lot I liked, and there's some things I didn't like about the last woman standing match. I think some people are creaming their pants over it. They did this, they did that, and I'll address that. But here's what I like. They went right to the heat. Right to the heat. Raquel starts bumping Rhea. Throwing her here, throwing her there, beating the shit out of her. It was great.
We don't need to shine the babyface all the time, especially Rhea. Rhea's been shining for a year and a half. We don't need to shine her up anymore in the fucking match. She'll make her comeback and yada 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 later. So Rhea and Raquel go at it, and I thought it was weird that. Well, first of all, the announcers mentioned they used to be friends, and it's a shame. I was talking about that last week, where they only brought that up out of nowhere, like a week ago, where this would have been a better part of the story this whole time. And they had matching R&R tattoos because they both like rest and relaxation. Rhea goes to the weapons first. The babyface uses the weapons first. I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of that. I don't know. You think Raquel would go for it first, or if the heel goes for it and then gets foiled and drops it or misses or something, and then the face picks it up and says, "All right, you son of a bitch, you want to do this? We'll do this." Well, that's great, but that was weird. They do a handcuff thing where and Raquel breaks the handcuffs out, and they beat the shit out of each other. Both of them are double tough, so I enjoyed that. I think it was Rhea took one of the world's ugliest table bumps. Her spine had just bended, folded over the announcer table. Then they start. This is where this breaks down, because then they go from gimmick to gimmick to gimmick. So they do this match. And it's like they did a tour of gimmicks. Like, first, okay, we'll do an announcer table thing. Okay. Then we got to do the glass door thing and throughout the arena and yada backstage. Oh, fuck Christ's sake. Then we got to do some kind of little balcony dive thing. I shouldn't say little, not trying to belittle it, but it's as big as this place. They're using the little room they have, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So then Dakota comes out with a stick, and like, okay. Dakota's does some damage, but she's foiled, and Rhea fires up. Again, why Rhea works way better as a babyface than I thought she would. She fires up, beats up Dakota, stuffs Dakota in a locker, and again, I don't know if the grumpy old wrestling fan in me kind of groans, but then there's another part. The comedian in me is like, that's hilarious. It's very Saved by the Bell of her to throw Dakota Kai in a locker. And I'm also at a crossroads with myself, as if next week we should pretend she's been in the locker for 7 days. Do we or don't we? Because there's the wrestling part of me that's like, no, it's dumb. It's not believable. And then there's the other part of me that's like, that's actually pretty fucking hilarious. Maybe they'll pretend she was there. Keep calling her Screech. No one will get that. They're too young. What happened? Oh, then they do the big giant bump through the stage. They just gimmick it. The handcuffs, the announcer table, the balcony table, the glass door, the outside interference, and then the kendo stick, and then the big bump through the stage. Oh, and the big phony throw them into the lighting and have the LED thing blink perfectly. It just, oh god, it was just gimmick after gimmick after gimmick after gimmick. Like we just. I don't know. This would have been maybe more effective without every single gimmick there is, especially you go through the glass door and no one comes out bleeding. I think they could have done without that one. If I had to pick one of them, the two of them to go, the glass door and LED board, that could have gone. It got a bit contrived, but nevertheless, it was a great ass kicking. Yeah, I think it elevated Raquel even further if that was the goal, and I think she looked tremendous. I like her offense. I love Rhea, but Rhea didn't really need it. And if the rumors are true that Rhea's going up to Raw or SmackDown, I don't want to call them main roster because NXT is the one with live fans now, so it's weird to say main roster. When you graduate to only wrestling in front of computers, yeah. The match, 7,022 stars. 7,022 stars it gets. But if this elevated Raquel, like I think War Games did as well, Raquel seems to deliver on big stages. So I'm all for it, but she's got to go to EO next because it's getting kind of silly. Like, why are these, larger athletic women beating the shit out of each other for just bragging rights, and EO's just kind of around? I don't. EO and Asuka have the same problem. They're all being overshadowed by everything around them. They have the title. Steven Regal shows up and announces next week we'll start the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Tournament, and there will also, I think he was talking to a blonde lady, and he said there will also be a women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Tournament. So that's only women tag teams that look like Dusty Rhodes, I think is what he was trying to say. So, should be interesting. The Undisputed Era, I wrote their names down. Why did I write their names down? I had a reason. I forget. But Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor is next, and not a lot I could say about this except match of the year. So far it is. I don't care what anybody says about the gimmicks of the last man standing and this, that, and the other thing. So far, yeah. The story here was tremendous. Now they told the story of Kyle's jaw, because we all know Finn broke his jaw the last time. And just unbelievable pro wrestling that had to follow the world. It had to follow the circus of gimmicks. And it's so hard to do. And I'm not trying to knock them. I just think, who let them do all of those things? They did like 6 gimmicky things. You could have taken half of them out. But anyway, and I'm pretty sure that whenever Finn and Kyle wrestled in that one takeover in July or August, whenever it was, I'm sure that they followed something similar. I can't think of it right now. Yeah, Kyle. Oh yeah, so he does an unusual thing where he can't get to the ropes when he's in an abdominal stretch. His abdominals are being stretched, but he reaches over to the ropes, which are right next to the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. And of course, Finn was being a good wrestler beforehand by positioning Kyle so that he couldn't grab the rope with his hand. So Kyle had to desperately grab it with his mouth. And we found out why I've never seen that, and Finn kicks the rope, and Kyle was just selling that jaw the whole time. What a great babyface. This match, more than a previous one, felt like there was a face and a heel. And I know Finn's not heel, but he's just like, he's wrestling the heel's role. So he's given the heat, and he's feeding for the comeback, and he's definitely the more vicious. He's not cheating. He's not a heel we want to boo. He's not really a heel, but he's not doing anything wrong. But he's an aggressive motherfucker, and he knows he's the best. And he's not cheating, but he is not there to play, which ultimately will get you cheered. But they don't get that. Finn taps him out. Finn taps Kyle out with some kind of submission maneuver that he just doesn't. That I've never seen him use before. Not sure exactly what it was, to be honest with you. But they kept it really grounded. There really wasn't any flying and diving around. They didn't do any crazy bumps on the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. They just told an unbelievable story, and this was worth having a rematch for. Of all the matches that you could have a rematch for, it wasn't like roll my eyes, we're doing this again, and just wait for the finish. I wasn't waiting for the finish. I wasn't even looking at the timestamp at the bottom of my Hulu screen with a limited commercial interruption for only $7.99 a month with original programming. Hulu, it's TV in the palm of your hand. I wasn't even looking at that, because sometimes I look at that to be like, all right, is this match over in 5 minutes or 10 minutes? The match ended a little bit out of nowhere for me, but that's okay, because if it was a sport, sometimes things end out of nowhere. Again, much like Priest, Kyle didn't lose anything in defeat. I like how they kept it straight. This time they didn't do Ridge Holland beating up all the UE guys at the end of it to distract us, because he's going to break his leg in a week anyway. They learned their lesson. They didn't do any of that. It was just Finn staring him down. Finn didn't shake his hand and didn't disrespect him either. He just stared at him, basically said, I'm the champion. And the UE didn't go after him, and didn't go after them. They're really tiptoeing on that line with Finn, and Finn does a great job of it. I didn't realize how talented he was at that kind of stuff until this last year that he's been back in NXT, because he really does a great job. So I think it was a good move to keep it on Finn. I think Finn is the man to beat. Unfortunately, we lost him for like 4 or 5 months or whatever it was because of the surgery. So it just feels. It doesn't feel like he won it 8 months ago. It feels like we just put the whole thing on hold. We did. So I don't know. I don't know the answers, folks. So I don't know where this leaves Undisputed Era. I think UE, the Undisputed Era, and Ripley are the ones that are going to have to go. I don't know what that does for NXT. I don't know what else there is for UE and Ripley to do. I don't think keeping Rhea around just to eventually wrestle and beat Io again is really a good idea. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to help. It's not going to help the division really. I mean, best thing was to make a star out of Raquel, or make a bigger deal out of Raquel. So those are all my cents. Those are all my 2 senses. I have to go to. It's 9:30 in the morning. I have to go to bed. I just got off my 12-hour night shift. I test microchips. That's what I do. I test hundreds of microchips individually by hand like an idiot. But it's money, and I need money. So I'm going to post this bad boy. I have no idea when a Royal Rumble is, but it's a few weeks away, so let's not worry about it. But when there is, I'll do a thing for that as well. I'm catching up on UK. Their Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve specials, thankfully, if you're trying to catch up, those are just clip shows, so catching up's actually pretty easy. I just got one more episode to do, and I'll be all caught up, and I'll see what they're doing. So I appreciate all of you for listening to the hardest part of the ring and putting up with me butchering a cappella Billy Joel. But how do you end it sometimes? I don't know how to end it anymore. I'll tell you, I had a rough week. I came home. My wife left me a Dear John letter. That was sad. Dear John letters. Yeah, it said, Dear John, don't tell Bob we're fucking. All right, you guys are tremendous. I'll be here all week. Hardest part of the ring.